let me record. So like I was saying, I created that file using nano, right? Nano list.sh, a bash script, and we all know how we got to this point. So this is a bash script that we did. Say for I, you are declaring a variable now. For I in the sequence of 1, for this variable of the sequence of 1 to 254, this is the command it has to do. The ping to the count of 1. That's to say, the ping should not be continuous. You know, like we established before now, if you ping without putting the count 1, it's continuous giving you the result, right? So the ping is to count 1. Then we wrote the network ID, right? The network ID of that network, because before you get this network ID, you have to do a ping, right? You have to do an if config. So if you do an if config, you know the network that you are sitting on, right? If I do if config, I'll know the network that I am sitting on. So this is the network I am sitting on, right? 192.168.141. The last number there is my host ID, right? So I want to sweep through the network that I am sitting on. And that is why we did this, or how we got about this network ID that is used here. So, and this is our variable I that we have declared here, right? Normally, if you run that without piping it, it gives you, the IP address with a long strings, right? 64 bytes from whatever, whatever. So what we just did was to pipe that information, and then we grab all the data that have to do with 64 bytes, because 64 bytes shows that there's a communication. There's actually an handshake between the system that is trying to ping them and the response system. That's this machine and the other machine. There's actually a handshake between them. So the 64 byte is a message coming back, an SMP message coming back from the target machine, right? So we grab that line and then try to remove other, things that are not needed. So we first of all cut out all the spaces that are in it, and there were 4 spaces in it, and that was what we removed. We now remove this dot also. So if you run the ping without all of this, you see how it is, but we are trying to just get only the IP addresses. And that is why we did it. And we now said, okay, and then done, right? So if you save this and exit, normally if you run it, remember we have to do the change mode, because if you do your ls-a or -l of this, normally you can see that it has both read, write, execute. But normally when you create the file, it will not be having this read, write, and execute. It will have only read, write, read, read. So I have to use the change mode to enable it to be executable, right? So I did 777. So all of them became ROWX, ROWX, ROW. Since I use 777, that's all of them are present, right? And that's how I changed it. Normally I'll just do this and write the file name, right? I'll just do this and write the file name. So, and it will change to executable, right? Since it's already executable, it's still executable. So what I now did was to run it. So if I run this .sh, it will scan through and give me all the IP addresses that are sitting on this network with me, right? So you see it has identified .63.116.182.194, which is mine, and .239 and .244, right? So now this is the result of the scan that it ran. So I now decided to push this result into a file, and I call the file list.txt. Now I'm doing all of this because I don't know the IP address that I want to target, right? I created a file list.txt. Sorry, let me do this. or let me do this rather, so that you see the file that I created. So list.txt. So how did I create this file? I ran my command, right, and pushed it into the file list.txt. So if you say, okay, let's do another list.txt, you notice that that file will be created. I will have this new file that we have created in that location, right? Just like I have this created, right? So we are trying to create another one. And like I told you, you can run a command and push the result into a file, right? So that is what we just did now. If you do your ls, you notice that a new file has been created. And if you decide to view what is in that file, you can use the cat, right? Lists.txt, right? And this is the result in that file that we just created. Because what it did was to push the results into a file that we created, right? Then I now go to, or I used nmap. Normally what I did with nmap was to have do nmap, then -e -ss for scene scan, right? But like I showed us yesterday, this is what I actually did. But what I did, or what I showed us yesterday, was for us to use the nmap scripts, right? Nmap -- I told you if you want to use a script, you specify it this way, right? And I think what we used was num/von. I think I will have to look that up. Let's go to our nmap engine, right? And remember, I told us about an nmap engine that can be used. So let's do that. Nmap NSE library, right? So just search for nmap NSE library and it will open this. So I want to see what we can use. So we come to scripts, right? So I want us to use the SMB scripts. Let's use the one that we used yesterday, right? We want to check if there is a vulnerability. So we used SMB and okay, yeah, I think one of these. We used one of these, right? So let's go ahead and try that SMB von MS 1710. Actually, this is not what I used when I was doing mine, right? Script SMB MS 710. Let's look at it again. SMB vol MS 17010. So SMS 17010, right? And then we added our scripts. The script we created now is list.t.txt, right? So we can go ahead and then run that, right? So wait for the results to come up. But in my initial practice, that was not what I did. What I just did was to use my nmap and then shoot it on one of the machines, right? So let's wait for that. So what it's doing now, it's scanning through all of those IP addresses to tell us whether there is something that is open or not. Okay. So scanning through is telling us that 63, these are the open ports. On 116, these are the open ports. On 53, this is the open port. So I think it's not giving us any substantial information. Yeah. Because all of these ports are in the, it's actually no substantial information here. Let's try another script. Let's try another script. Let's use the MS08067. Let's try this. You can also try, we'll look for a way and try something around HTTP2 if SMB is not giving us information that we need. But I think yesterday we tried and we got one of them opened, and we made use of that. Let's see. Okay, still nothing is coming up. Nothing is coming up. Let's see. What is this machine? Okay, that is not coming up. Okay, so let's try something else. Let me do what I did initially. Let me try this before I do that. And users. Let's see if we can get the users. Let's try for HTTP. This will not go because it's not a website. Okay, so let's just go ahead with direct writing or direct this. Let me do what I did the other time. So we can leave this and just do nmap dash e dash sn dash en. Let me do sudo. So let's do this and then see. So while we wait for the scan to complete, I now opened another terminal, right? First of all, let me exit here. Now, this is the steps. These are just the processes of hacking, right? These are the processes of hacking. So I just exited that. After I wait for that guy to scan, what I'll just do is to start my MSF console machine, right? And wait for it to come up. So the moment I get results, I'll know the IP address that is open and what, vulnerability it is opened to, right? So I'll wait for the both of them to come up. So note that what Mmap is doing here is scanning through the list of all the IP addresses that we have identified on this machine, and to give us the results. While on this screen, the MSF console is opening itself, right? So you can see starting the Metasploit framework console. So let's wait for that to come up. Let me look at the IP address of this. Okay, we can see here that, okay, I think we have some results here. So like I told us yesterday, this, when you see the host script result, most times it's one of the most important results that you are looking for. You can see it's locking a clock skew, it's running a net BIOS statistics, it's running SMB, right? That's a server message block. So you can actually look for, exploits that you can use for any of these guys on your Metasploit framework. So let me clear my screen. So if I want to search, I'll just search for, let me say, clock skew, right? No result for that, so I can't use that. So let me search for NB stats. I think there's nothing there for that. No result. Okay, so let me search for SMB. So normally when you search for SMB, it's always very bogus. The results are always much. You can see we have almost 135 results here for SMB. So what we are looking for most times is to exploit. So you can try several exploits. This is an exploit. This is also an exploit. I'm just looking for an exploit that will give us something good. That's our enumeration. So let's look at them from the beginning. So you can see several exploits here. Okay, so we have these exploits here. We have an auxiliary. We have an exploit here. If maybe this was a full server, or this was a Linux-based machine, but as we can see, it's a Microsoft Windows-based machine. So let's look for an exploit that will match that. So let's try 10. If we want to try 10, we can say use 10, right? We want to use exploit number 10, based on the numbers that are here, right? This exploit. So I just said use 10, right? So we want to see if we can get a generic way to inject something into the target machine, right? So we'll do that and then press enter. So I say use 10 and press enter. You watch that the Metasploit will set itself to that particular exploit, right? To set itself to that particular exploit. So first thing you do is to want to see the options that, are in that exploit. Let me clear the thing. The options that are there. So you can either do that by typing show options, or you can just type options, right? So when you say show option, it will now give you the options of the things that you need to set, right? The things that you need to set. And when you look at all of these things that you need to set and you don't have the information yet, it means that exploit, you cannot use it. For instance, it's telling you to set up it's asking if file name is important. They say no. Folder name is not important. Share name is not important. But now the SRV host is important. You have to set it. So it means the local host of network interface to listen on. This must be an IP address, right, on the local machine, or this to listen on all address. So you notice that here now you need to set it. So you can decide to set it by setting it to this IP address that we have here. The IP address that we have here is this, right? Because this is the machine we are targeting now, 239, right? So you can go ahead and just set it to, you can say, okay, set SRV, right, host, right? See the name there, SRV host, right? That's what you are setting, SRV host to 192.168.141.239, right? So when you do this and you press enter, it will set it. So if you do that, show options again, you notice that this SRV whatever is being set to this IP address, right? Then you can go ahead and run. Now note that we have a payload option here, but the payload has already been set up for us, and the payload is for us to have a reverse TCP. So reverse TCP is like you have this black terminal where you can actually communicate with the target machine. So if we go ahead and run this exploit by typing run or by typing exploit, right? You press enter, you wait for it to start running. So you can see exploit failed, right? Fail, file available on this. It couldn't get the file, so the exploit has failed in the first instance. It's trying to bind, but the bind also fails. So the address is already in use or unavailable, right? So that exploit might not give us something, though it's still running. We'll still search for another exploit that have to do with SMB, right? That we can use on that machine. So maybe when I want to search for now, just search for SMB2, right? And see the available options that we have for that, for SMB2. So let me go ahead and stop this guy because it's actually not going to give us anything. So let's search again for SMB2. Okay. I think we went out completely from MSF console. Sorry. I think that's why we couldn't get that. So let's go back to MSF console, search for SMB2, and then try that out and see the options. Let's see the exploit that we made available to us. But like I told you, there are a lot of exploits here that you can actually play around with. Just understand the process and then go ahead carrying out whatever you're doing. I think hopefully what I'll just do is to try out several exploits and see maybe anyone that works out for us, then we'll have to use that to display for us also so that you see how these things work. But actually, this is just the process of how you hack into a system, this is how it works. You first of all identify the IP address of that system, then you scan for vulnerabilities, and then when you scan for vulnerabilities, you now exploit, right? Try to take advantage of the system by breaking into the system. So what we are doing in Metasploit now is actually trying to take advantage of the system. We're trying to break into the system. And just like we all know, if you're breaking through a door to enter a building that you don't, you know, definitely it will take you a little time, right? So you try several ways on how to break that door, right? SMB2. So that is what we are doing. So first of all, we have gotten, I have narrowed it down to SMB2. So we have five, you know, results here. The first one is a scanner. Second one is an exploit. The third one is an auxiliary. Um, we have auxiliaries, all true. So it's the second one or the first one, which is number one. The second one, which is number one, is what we will be using since we are trying to exploit, right? So we use one. So it has set itself to one. We can, we can now say, okay, let us see the options. So if you want to see options, either you type show options or you just type option, right? So you can see that the arrow host, which is the remote host, has to be set here because it's required. You can see yes means it's required, right? So we are going to set that now. Let me see if port 445 is open. So port 445 is open here, and that is the default port for this exploit, right? So let's go ahead and set our arrow host to be our target machine. So we do that by setting arrow host to be 192.168.141.239. So if you do your options again, notice that that has been set here, right? All of these now have values in them, right? So you can go ahead and then try to fire, right? Try to fire, but I think this exploit, why it is actually not working for us is because most times it is targeting this type of machine, Windows Vista, XP1, XP2, and Server 2008, right? But let's go ahead and run that and see. So until you get a good, you find a good exploit for your machine or for the target system, you keep trying, right? And that is how these things work. Although definitely if I've done this before now and I've gotten an exploit, no, definitely just to exhibit it for us and show us, okay, you do this and you get this and you get this result. So that is what I'll just still do and get one for us so that we can see how we penetrated into another system and then get results. So you can see what this exploit is doing is trying to create a reverse handler for us so that we can interact with the target machine. That's what it's trying to do. So it's waiting for up to 180 seconds before it exploits the trigger, before the exploit will trigger. You can actually remove that and set it in the weights, right? You can see here it's 180 seconds. So we can still reduce this to be 60 by setting weights. You just type set WAIT 60, right? And press enter. So it will still do that, right? So this is just the basic process in carrying out your attacks on a machine that you have access to, right? I also want to try something. I want to try this. Let me see if we can have an exploit for this. When this one finish running, we'll try and search for this to see if we can run something on it. Mm. And like we all know also, I hope you know that when you are conducting a pen testing, for instance, you're conducting a pen testing, whether your result is positive or negative, I hope you know it is a result. So whether the result gives you an output, the output is either positive or negative. Are you able to hack it? Yes. Are you not able to hack it? No. It's all a result. I hope we know that. So that you don't believe that when something is not hackable, it means you don't know what you are doing. You understand? Because there are actually, there are some settings I'll go and enable on that Windows machine now. You notice that even the scanning that we are doing, you cannot scan the machine. So most times the defense is dependent on your ability to either break or not to break is dependent on the system administrator, right? If the administrator is unable to administer well, exploit complete, but no session was created. So what I want is actually a session, but the exploit has taken place, but there's no session that was created. But if a session was created for us now, what would have just done is to start navigating through that system or through that machine and then start moving and working in that machine, right? Let me do this. Let me do quit. Oh, wow. Okay, so let me go here and then let me search for HTTP API. No results. Let me search for HTTP D 2.0. Okay. So we have one, but that one is an auxiliary. So let's use 0 and see. Let's use 0 and try on that. Let's do options. So what is required? Arrow host is required. Yes. So let's go ahead and set arrow host. Let's set arrow host to 192.168.141.4239. Remember, that is our target machine. So we can run also and see if we get something from this HTTP server. Exploit completed, but no session was created, right? So we need, or what is mostly important is when you are into the system, right? So definitely you can try a lot of things to get into the system. So but what is important to us is getting into the system. So this was unable to exploit the machine. You can still use, let's search for it again. Sorry, let me clear my screen. I think even if we use one here, one will not give us anything. This is more or less a scanner though. So let's just try it. But these are the steps you just use. I'll look for one vulnerability and then we'll try that so that we penetrate and get into one system, right? So I think that will be all for today. I just wanted us to do something today. Let it not be as if we did not do anything. I just pray you understand the process. First of all, you get the target IP or the information from the target. You use Nmap to scan to check ports that are open and services that are running on them. Then you come to your Metasploit and then you run a scan on those ports. First of all, you can run a search. You can search for an exploit on those ports that are open, right? Let me see for TCP wrapped. Okay, so you can just search for an exploit that you can use for those open ports. Search for, okay. Let's see if this will give us something. One, set options. Okay, this will not work because I think it's for a server. No domain name. Did we specify domain name? Domain name of the target, right? So we don't have a domain name for this. But let's just try something. Let's see if we set it to okay, still no way. No access to this. So I think all of this we are doing, we don't have any, we can't actually penetrate into that system. So what I'll just do is to look at it more and see the exploit that we can use and try that on those on the system, right? So let's stop the class here for today. And then hopefully we are meeting tomorrow, then we can proceed from there. So if there's questions, if there are questions, you can go ahead and ask, please.